Hello everyone, Eliott here. Today I'm at the studio to film a very special video. I want to share with you my experience as a Westerner learning the ERHU. It will not be a tutorial video, like I will not be talking about how to hold the ERHU bow or how to do basic scale or stuff like that. So if you are interested in that kind of information, you can find a lot of links in the video description that will be very useful for you. Instead I want to focus on the things that really made a difference for me, like all the little tips and tricks that I've used to facilitate my learning. And if you have any question, put them in the comment, I'll be happy to answer them. And with that being said, let's get started. When you want to learn the ERHU, and especially as a Westerner, what happens every time is that we all fallen in love with the sound online, you know, the crying sound, the very mellow sound that we've heard in online or in movies. And when the ERHU arrives, you get the ERHU, you do the setup, you rosin the bow, and you are very excited to play for the first time. And then the sound you get is something like that. This was my first ERHU, by the way, so it's very telling. So the sound you get is something like that. Probably with a lot more scratches, like and then you try to do the scale, you try to do something with that, and you get it's a recreation, but basically this was how it started for me at first. You start like that, and so we all agree that the sound we start with is nowhere near the really beautiful mellow sound, really magical sound that we've heard on the web with a lot of vibrato, a lot of thing and stuff like that. And the drop in what you expect to hear and what you hear when it arrives is so huge that it makes a lot of people just quit right from the start. And the thing is, this is totally normal. It's because the final sound of the ERHU, it's a very sophisticated thing that depends on a lot of little skills, individual skills that work together. So for example, it will cover from the vibrato to the glissando to the amount of pressure you put on the strings, to the setup of the instrument, which is very important on the ERHU. This one is especially not properly set up, so just for the example. But if you want to stand a chance at learning the ERHU as a Westerner on your own, the first thing to do is understand that it's going to be a long road before you even start to play the ERHU, I would say. At first you will not be playing the ERHU, you will be studying the instrument, understanding how it works, and maybe after 6 months, maybe 1 year, maybe more, then you will finally at least have a basis understanding of all these little skills, and then you will start approaching that specific sound. That really crying mellow sound that we all love, and so that will be your very first step. Take your expectation and put them back in front of the reality. You will not get anywhere good quickly. The setup on an ERHU is very important. So the setup will be, you see all the little part. It will be what type of bow you have, what type of string you have, what kind of bridge you have. Is it a big one? Is it a small one? You see, this one, it's a big one, and this is not a very good match for this ERHU especially. It will be the tension of the snake skin. It's very important as well. The piece of cloth, all these little parts that will work together to make either a good sound, a bright sound, a soft sound, a responsive sound, or you know, all that kind of difference. And why it's very important on an ERHU, it's because, for example, take this one. The setup is really bad. I did that on purpose so I can show you the difference. And even to produce a small sound, I have to put put too much pressure and too much force on the bow. So it always feels when I'm playing that I need to push too much. It's like by playing it feel harsh. It feel like to produce emotion I have to put too much pressure on the strings. Especially on the bowing. I can't get the very soft sound. I can only get a certain level of loudness, because if I play too soft, I get almost no sound at all, or I get a weird harmonic sound like that. And so I'm just going to change ERHU. If I take this one, which is my main ERHU, and the setup is absolutely perfect on this one. I absolutely love that. If I take this one and this one, so even if I put a little bit of pressure, I get a pure sound. And this allows me to play in a much more subtle way, like the amount of pressure I put to play that phrase was so little. If I were to play that on the other ERHU, I would not even get a sound. So this is why the setup of the ERHU is very important. It's because it will directly influence the way you play the instrument. And when you learn the ERHU, your goal is to learn the mechanical skills of in your hand and stuff like that, of course. But it is also to learn to learn how different parts will affect the sound. So, for example, in that case, this is the best ERHU I got, and it's not a pricey one. I think it's only 200 euros model. But the snake skin, it's very soft. It's very loose, I would say. It's not stiff. The bridge is very small, and there is not a lot of cloth. And I put a lot of rosin on my bow, for example. And all of that, it makes for a very soft and responsive sound that I personally really enjoy. I like when the ERHU is very soft. Yeah, it's hard to show you on the camera, but the feeling when I play, it's like on this one I feel like I'm stuck in the mud almost. It's like you always have to put too much strength, and yeah, it's then and nice. So take the setup of your ERHU very seriously. It will change your life. Okay, this one is very important. I wish I knew this one when I started. It would have made my life so much easier. It's the fact that even for the final sound of the ERHU, it's perceived as subtle and soft. The way you have to play it to get that sound, it can be very intense, and it can be so intense that it can hurt your finger at first when you are learning the instrument. And to show what I mean, it's you can watch the strings, so you can see the amount of pressure I put with my left hand. And if I play a note, but I put no pressure, you see the note is very flat. And it's only as soon as I start to really pressure the strings that something will happen. And so my advice would be, don't do the same mistake I did, and don't play too shy and too carefully at first. At first I was always playing like a, and I was always stuck with that weak sound, with a lot of noises and stuff, and it was because my sound was not loud enough and expressive enough to go above all the little scratches and natural noises that the instrument will produce. So at first I would recommend to start, what you need to build is start to build some strength in your finger, both the right hand, the bowing, and the left hand. And when you get that intensity, you start building up your control. Like at first, when you do your scale, try to do a clear sound instead of just being shy. Do something like a, you know, a clear sound, like a pure note, and don't do a. And then when you have the loud sound, you can work towards the dynamics. As an example, here is the same melody played with a lot of pressure and expression, and then no pressure. And you will see by yourself the difference it makes. There are numerous ways you can soften the sound of your ERHU. So the first question is why you will soften the sound of your ERHU. Most of the time it's the path we all follow is that at first, when we doesn't have any skills, we want to soften things up so we can practice, you know, for longer. When you do just that, you might want to have a more muffled sound. It can be less annoying to practice, you know. And then when you pick up more and more skills and then you start playing on song and stuff like that, you might want to remove some of that dampening and to have a clearer sound, a brighter sound. And usually it's what always happens in music. The more advanced the player, the more expression he wants to be able to have. So he will seek a strong instrument that produces a loud sound and a bright sound, and it's not personally my case. I prefer to keep my sound very mellow and very soft, but it depends on what you like, of course. And there are many ways you can do that. As I said, the easiest one will be through the cloth that goes under the bridge here. Basically, the more cloth you put, the more muffled the sound will be, and the less you put, the more bright or harsh it will be. If you remove it completely, it will be so harsh that it will be unplayable almost. You can go further than that. You can play with headphones. It's a good option because it will muffle the sound, of course. And at some point, for example, I put some cloth behind the ERHU to have an even softer sound. Just remember something, is that this technique should not take precedence over your skills. Basically, if you can't manage to do a proper bowing, and you get only scratches like that, you can put all the amount of cloves you want everywhere on the instrument, you will still have that kind of noise. Alright, so just be careful with that. normally the ERHU it's supposed to be tuned in D and A, but you can go as low as C and G with no problem. And the thing is, when you go lower than the standard tuning, everything will soften up a little bit. The sound will be slightly softer. Since it's lower, it will also be easier on the ears. And the thinning of the string will be less hard to play as well, so you can put more pressure without hurting your finger. And I will use that as a change of perspective. If you play on a DA, you get a bright sound, and then you go, for example, I'm just going to go lower. So if I go, I tune to C right here, and I go to C. You see the sound is a little more mellow, it's different, it also feels very different to play, and it can be good to explore a little bit this lower tuning to give you a new perspective and help you, as always, ease up the steep learning curve at first when you try the ERHU. As with the softening technique, just be aware, do not stray too far away from the original tuning, because this is where your true skills need to be developed. All right? It is very important, if you want to one day be good at the ERHU, that you remember to play the ERHU and not only do practice. So practice is different from playing the ERHU, because when you practice, you practice the technical side of things. You know, you do your scale, but you do your bowing exercise, like. But it's the mindset when you do that, it will be it can kill the emotion. And it's very important, if you do not take the time to play after you practice, after a few weeks you won't even remember why you wanted to play the ERHU in the first place. So what I will recommend is after every bit of practice you do, you just take, even if it's 5 minutes, you just go on YouTube or whatever, and you, for example, in that case it's 1 hour ambient Japanese music, and you just put the music in the back. And so you just improvise alongside it. You know, you just do whatever, but you just relax and you play whatever you want, you know. So And to conclude, I want to talk to you about the thing that made the most difference for me. It almost changed the way I conceive the instrument and the way I play the instrument myself. And I'm talking about the reverb, of course. For me, it changed the sound of the instrument so much that it's almost a different thing, you know. And I never play the ERHU without it. I always put a reverb when I want to play. I don't practice with it. It's very important because it's too much of an improvement in my eyes that I never practice with it to keep things hard, I would say. But when I want to play, I always have a reverb. And the way you could do it is by just playing in a room that has a natural reverb. The room I got here are treated, you know, for studio work, so basically I don't get a lot of reverb. I get almost no reverb at all. So the way I do it is by using that kind of microphone that I just put behind the ERHU, but you could use whatever microphone you want, it will work as well. And to show you the difference it makes, I've prepared some example where I play with reverb and without reverb on a song or just by myself. so that's the end of the video. If you have any more questions, as I said, you can put them in the comment. I'll be happy to answer them. I would have wanted to make the video shorter, but I'm just not great at doing that kind of thing. I'm better at doing the artistic stuff, but I hope you don't mind. Be sure to check the video description because, as I said, I put a ton of links about how to buy an ERHU, how to buy the microphone I just talked to you about, and all the other links that will be just gold for anyone who want to try to learn the ERHU. And I guess I'll see you very soon for the next big production. I got some very nice thing I'm working on right now, and I can't wait to show that to you as well. So see you soon.